I've decided I don't want to look like an example anymore. I want to be one. Because somewhere along the way, I started confusing insight with embodiment. So today I want to talk about authenticity, external validation, and why not doing the work eventually blocks everything. So this is me recommitting, not for content, but for myself. This is Francisca. This is my mid-crisis life, and today is Crisis Confessionals. If you're in a season where growth feels uncomfortable or identity shifting, subscribe. This channel isn't about fixing yourself. It's about staying honest while you change. Okay, so, I think before Christmas and New Year, before the beginning of this new 2026, I was making videos, right? I was making content and I was talking about the things that were going on in my life. But the more and more I spoke and the more and more that I shared and the more and more that I analyzed and I guess like perceived and processed all the things that were going on in my life. And the more that I looked at the kind of content I was putting out, the more that I just thought, God, this is depressing, isn't it? Oh, this is depressing. Like when I look at like the thumbnails from that period, it's like nobody loves me. Why doesn't anybody love me? My life is on fire. Why doesn't anybody care? It's just like, and it's true. It's fine, right? It's things that I was going through, so I can't pretend like it's not real. But it was a bit depressing. It was a bit depressing, and I was thinking when I was thinking about making this video, I was thinking a lot about what that was about, right? And it reminded me of this conversation that I had when I went to go and visit my friend in Reno. And her daughter had a best friend who was coming round, and she told me a little bit about this girl, and she'd really gone through some serious adversity. She'd lost her eye in a freak accident, and she was blind in one eye, and like all of this other stuff, right? That was really strenuous, right? There was a lot of turbulence and I don't know, whatever challenges, right, in life. And she was telling me about this, and it was hard to listen to. But the thing that my friend's daughter kept on saying was like, she's such a survivor. She's so strong. She's just so strong, Fran. Wait until you meet this girl. She's so strong. She's such a survivor. And I remember thinking at the time, just like, you might want to stop saying that about her. Like, cause then, being a survivor becomes her entire identity. It's like, so I've just got to spend my entire life surviving because, I'm such a survivor. And I think it's so true in terms of like the way that we talk about things, right? So the way that we talk about what's going on in our life, like, oh, I'm really hopeful that this thing is going to happen, or, like I'm really waiting. I'm just waiting for this one thing to change and then that's going to be amazing. Or like, saying like, I can't wait for this to happen, or I'm looking forward to the future, stuff like that. It's kind of like these things that are kind of in motion, right? Rather than actually happening. And it's like this kind of way of talking about things that isn't present. Like, no, I'm really grateful that this thing is happening, like that it has happened. I just haven't maybe seen it yet. I haven't noticed it yet, right? And I think that's a whole conversation for another day. But the reason why I bring it up is because I feel like, I know so much about the words that we speak and what we express and the language that we use to express ourselves and how powerful that is, but yet call my channel Mid-Crisis Life. And it's kind of like, all right, so do I want to be mid-crisis all the time? Like, is this what it is? And then I find myself like having to, not even having to think, right, because there's always things happening, right, but like having to focus on like, right, what's going wrong in my life so that I can make a video and get some learning from it and get some content from it, right? And it's like, I really don't want for like the crisis to become my identity. Like, I don't always want to be talking about negative stuff. And I feel like in a lot of the ways, that's something that's happening more and more regularly, you know, because of just the nature of the thing that I'm talking about. But I also know, and I also believe it to be true, that, you know, we as people here on this earth, we are in crisis a lot. Whether the crisis is big or small, there are all of these little mini crises, these mini like adversities that we naturally face, right? So I know that there's definitely merit to be thinking about, how do I manage these things on a day-to-day basis, right? Because that really is what I want this content to be. It's to be identifiable, you know, and relatable with people who are also just going through the throes of life, going through the normality and the banality of life, right? Just that, well, shit happens, right? And it is about perspective, and it is about how you process these things, and it is about how you look at and understand the things that are happening in life just spontaneously around you, so that there can be a greater level of like purpose and purposefulness moving forward, so that things aren't just happening to you, like, oh God, all of this stuff is just happening to me and I'm just a victim of my life, right? And I can't see anything positive, right? And I know that that comes from being able to process things, and I know that that comes from being able to really feel the pain and the sorrow and the fear and the rejection and the disillusion and all of the other feelings that come with adversity, that come with challenges, that come with all of these little crises that we're constantly having to face and constantly having to navigate our way through, right? But I think that more recently, definitely, you know, having a schedule where I'm putting out content 4 times a week and like, you know, trying to make something happen and trying to build momentum, I've definitely seen recently that I'm more worried about what it is that I'm going to say when I come here, rather than actually what's going on in my life. So it's like when things happen, my brain automatically is like, oh, that's going to be really good content. We should definitely write this down, right? And I'm more thinking about like, how can I stay relevant? How can I make this interesting? How can I talk about something that people are going to be interested in and inspired by and be able to relate to? And how am I going to, you know, make my content the most wanted and the most exciting and the most interesting and all the rest of it, right? And it's like, there's just such like a pomposity to it that I'm seeing now, where it's like, who really do I think I am? Like, yes, we're all valuable and we're all unique and all the rest of it, but it's like, do I really think that me standing here doing this is so vital and so important that I have to be completely overwhelmed and overtaken and debilitated by a fear that whatever I say is so important? It's like my own hubris. It's like my own hubris is stopping my own creativity. Like, and yes, it's not healthy constantly to be looking at how my life is constantly in crisis, right? And wanting to get content out of my life all the time, because that's basically what I come here and talk about. But I feel like there would be less pressure. There would be less urgency, right? To make that something if I wasn't
constantly in fear that it needed to be something. And then that only comes from like that arrogance that, you know, it is something. And it's like, I know that a part of me is always going to be seeking external validation. I know that a part of me is always going to want that positive feedback loop from other people. And I know that that's always going to be a part of my growth, and that's always going to be a part of my processing. And at its most extreme, it causes me to be disabled from being able to truly create, being able to be in flow, because I'm more worried about how I'm perceived and I'm looking at myself from that outside view than actually just being, or doing or creating, right? So the interesting thing, is that before Christmas, I noticed that there was like a lot of momentum building in terms of stuff that I was putting out there. There was more people watching, things were getting further reach. There was more stuff going on, basically, right? And the interesting thing is that like I've seen it happen before, right? With various different projects, with various different things that I've put out at different junctures in my recent life. And every time, it's funny, the same thing kind of happens, right? So momentum will build, and then all of a sudden I'll stall and I'll falter and I'll start overthinking and I'll start worrying about whether or not essentially I'm good enough, right? And I read something before from a content creator who said that, and I can't remember who it is now, and I really wish that I could, but this person said that your channel or whatever it is, right, will only grow as fast as your nervous system allows, right? And it's really interesting that I always have these big spikes of growth, or like things move really, really quickly. Like, you know, I created a Facebook page and within something like 3 weeks, it had like 11,000 or 10,000 followers or something. It just like blew up. It blew up so quickly that Facebook were like, yeah, that's not right. You're cheating. Somehow you're cheating. We don't know how, but you are, right? And I know that happened. There's a part of me that energetically is putting the brakes on, right? Because I'm worried that whatever I'm doing isn't going to be good enough. So I think at the moment, thinking about all of these different elements, thinking about how depressing things were getting previously, thinking about how much I'm thinking about content, and thinking about how there's the potential for my identity to have become about the crisis and overcoming the crisis, rather than, and doing it for the content rather than doing it for myself, and how a lot of that is related to my own need for external validation. And then how all of that seems in some sort of existential cacophony of madness, seems to stall my forward progression whenever I see that momentum happening. I started thinking a lot about, okay, so how do I fast track this, right? How do I just get over that hurdle? How do I believe that there is no hurdle to get over, right? How do I see, because even the wording that I'm using, like, how do I push through? How do I force? How do I make it happen? Like, there is no pushing, there's no forcing, there's no making it happen, right? It just is. And how do I just be? I think that's the question, right? And when I was thinking about it, the same thing kept on coming back to me. And the thing that kept on coming back to me was that what I'm doing at the moment is I'm not doing the work. I'm not doing the work. I'm just talking about doing the work. So it's like how can I really be moving forward and shedding and processing and understanding and reaching new points of self-evolution and self-growth and greater levels of perception and all the rest of it, if I'm not doing the work, if I'm just talking about doing the work for the fucking gram, it's impossible, right? Of course I'm going to stall. I'm going to stall both creatively, and I'm going to stall existentially, and I'm going to stall in like momentumally. I don't know. I don't think that's a word. But whatever, right? And it's like, I think the reason why I'm noticing, like, what am I doing? Like, why does this feel off? Is because there's a level of insincerity, for me anyway, right? To my very high standards of what I feel authenticity is and what I feel authenticity should be, right? So, here we go. Today, I am making a renewed promise, and I am renewing a promise to get back to doing the actual work. Because whether or not anything happens with this channel, that's ultimately what I want, right? I want to be like a healthier person. Like, I don't want to be in fear. I don't want to feel this crushing weight of failure. I don't want to feel the crushing weight of success. I don't want to be procrastinating. I don't want to be holding myself back. I don't want to be desperate to live in crisis so that I have something to talk about. That's not what I want. I want to understand that the crises are a way of moving through life, right? Which is the whole point. So today I'm making a renewed promise to get back to doing the work. And doing the work is just really about loving yourself. And I'm making a renewed promise to get back to being an example rather than just looking like one. Because I think that's, for me, one of the most important things. And that, for me, is where the authenticity lies, right? There are so many people out there talking about mindfulness and how you do the work and whatever else. Like, but it's more important to them to look like an example, to look like a leader, rather than actually just be an example. Doing the fucking work and being the example, right? And I think ultimately, invariably, this is going to equate to a raise in my vibrations. It's going to equate to me being in a place of love rather than in a place of fear. And once you're at that frequency of love, it's so much easier to be creative. It's so much easier to think outside the box. It's so much easier to strategize. It's so much easier to understand things and to have compassion and to have forgiveness for the things that are going on around you, or, you know, the way that you're being, or the way that you're thinking, or the way that you're processing things. And life just is a lot easier, even though we are always mid-crisis. Okay, so I think that's it for now. Something that I'm grateful for. I think, in all honesty, I'm grateful for the space of time that Christmas and New Year has afforded me. It's allowed me to step back, to relax, to reset, I guess, in a way. And to kind of take stock of what I was doing and what I was doing it for. Okay. Yeah, for now, that's it. If this episode helped you recognize something real, subscribe. Not for answers, but for honesty while we actually do the work, not just talk about it.